Welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast with your hosts, Jason Mefford and Kathy Gruber. Fire and Earth, giving you the keys to unlock your limitless potential.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. I'm your co-host, Kathy Gruber.
And I'm Jason Mefford. And today we want to do another one of those prompt questions that will just lead again to a discussion that we have no idea where it will go to. So you're going to be just as interested as we are to figure out where this episode goes today.
Or not.
Or not. Or
maybe
not.
Maybe you don't care.
Yeah, maybe you don't care. Anyway, well.
Then they wouldn't be listening. If they didn't care, they wouldn't have tuned in at all.
Well, I guess that's true, right? So if they're still listening now, they're probably going to listen to the end of the episode too. And they're going to get a lot of value out of it.
It'd be helpful if I didn't have my light in the camera. There we go.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Technical problem.
So,
okay.
Well, excuses. And that's what we're going to talk about today, right? So, Kathy, what was the prompt that we wanted to get in and talk about?
So the prompt today was, what excuse for not... Have to look on here. Can't read my writing. Hang on. We got it down. Okay. What excuses for not improving my life do I need to let go of? Because we all have them. We've all had the excuse for not going to the gym, not eating better, not making those changes that we want to make. So what excuse or excuses for not improving your life do you need to let go of?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's interesting because I hear there's a concept of secondary gain too, right? Which is people say, oh, well, I want to lose weight, let's say, right? I want to lose weight. I'm just going to use that as an example. But try as they might, they just can't lose weight, right? And so one of the coaching questions is, well, what secondary gain are you getting from not losing weight, right? And so a lot of people would be like, well, I'm not gaining anything. I really want to lose weight. But then as you start to dig into it, there's a reason, and sometimes it's a subconscious reason for why they don't want to lose weight, right? One common one that I've heard of, especially in women, are women who have been sexually molested or abused early in their life. Subconsciously, they gain weight, right? They do things to try to make themselves subconsciously not attractive to men, to hope that never happens again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And secondary gain is very insidious. People don't sit there and consciously go, what am I gaining from staying stuck? What am I gaining from not going to the gym? And I've seen it a lot because of the massage practice that I have. I've seen it a lot with people's physical stuff. They don't really want to fix their hip because then that means they have to go back and exercise. They don't really want to address the headaches because then they have to go to the PTA meeting. They don't really want to address, so or what, I had a client who loved when her back went out, and she had serious back problems. She was not manufacturing this, but when her back would go out, she would love it because she didn't have to go to work. She could sit on the couch with the cat. She could drink some wine, take a pain pill. Not the best recommended thing, watch Netflix all day. And her husband would clean the house, and she would call me, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry about your back. And she's like, well,
I kind of like it because I get pampered.
Yeah,
right?
She kind of liked it. And, years later, because we're still friends, I remember asking her about that. And she's like, oh, yeah. She goes, I actually kind of relished in that. And I said, why didn't you just either tell your husband you wanted him to help clean? You guys had plenty of money, get a cleaning service, take one day week off, one afternoon off a month to lay on the couch with the cat and the Netflix, maybe not the pain pill. There's choices that we can make so that we don't have to rely on that secondary gain. And again, I'm not saying she created her back pain, because she did have serious back problems, but she sure wasn't taking steps to make sure it didn't happen again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very unconscious thing normally. So,
yeah, because I think that is, we've talked about this before too, where change is sometimes challenging, difficult maybe, and sometimes it's more challenging, depending on how challenging we want to make it, right? Because sometimes, the victim mentality kind of comes in too, right? Because there's usually a secondary gain for playing a victim, like, oh, my back hurts, or, oh, I have a headache, so not tonight, honey, and I can't go to the PTA meeting, and oh my gosh, I can't go to work, right? Because I hate work anyway. And, I know a person that this was because I look for patterns, right? You
Yeah.
look for patterns. If you're outside, you can see the patterns, but the people themselves can't see the patterns. And so I knew this person that would get sick, had a lot of sick days, right? And you're allowed, I don't know, in most companies, what, maybe 10 a year or something like
Yeah.
that. Well, this person would be sick 20 or 30 days a year
Wow.
and miss work. And guess what day it was that they missed work? Monday. Every day it was Monday. So it's like, okay, well, there's a reason there, right? Because this person doesn't want to go to work, and so because of that, they get sick every Sunday and can't go to
Or they
work
have
on
an
Monday.
alcohol problem. They have a substance problem.
Well, that could be too.
And they party so much on the weekend, they wake up Monday and they're like, nah.
Yeah, yeah.
So what are some of the common excuses, right? We have the I don't have time, I don't have money, I have kids. Those are the three I hear the most, right? And I was doing a talk and it was about self-care and work-life balance. And I said, how many of you have kids? And I always make the joke of I don't. I've seen them, and everyone laughs. But this woman like really sort of got in my face about the fact that I don't understand, she's running a business and she has kids, and and I said, because we were talking about meditation, I don't have time to meditate. And I said, you don't have a minute to do the mini meditation when you're in the shower, when you're in the bath, when you're making dinner, when you're brushing your teeth. There's always a way to find time for these things. And people have this misconception that in order to meditate, you have to sit on the pillow for an hour in an Om position, blanking everything else out. And it's like, you can make meditation what works for you. And she said, something about not having kids, and she can't even take a bath because she feels so guilty leaving her kids. And I said, well, what lesson are you teaching your kids? That mom can't take 10 minutes in the bathtub for herself. I said, you are teaching your children that everybody else's needs come above theirs. And she kind of stopped and she looked at me and she goes, yeah, you're right. God, I'd love to take a bath. I said, so maybe you have a girlfriend over for an hour where she can watch your kids. Maybe your partner, if you have one, watches the kids. There are ways around this if you look for ways around this. And I think that's the key, is people get stuck in this, like you said, victim thing of, oh, I can't even take a bath. And it's like, well, you can. You just have to get creative in a way to do that.
Well, and it, part of it depends on what it is that you have to do, right, to improve your life.
Right.
Because like you said, I don't have time, I don't have money, I have kids, so I don't have time for that, right? Because the kids kind of roll into that time. So most of the time it's either time or money is really what people are making excuses for. But I think another one that people also go into is relationships, right? And the fact that if you improve your life and your partner doesn't want to, that might mean that relationship no longer exists, right? Or that you outgrow each other, or that's not even necessarily the right term, but you know what I mean? Like if one partner is trying to improve themselves, trying to do things, maybe they're changing, they're believing things differently, the other partner doesn't want to, often that's going to mean the end of a relationship. Now, it could be a friend relationship, it could be a family relationship, brother, sister, father, mother, but it could also be partner. And I see that a lot of times. I mean, one of the coaching programs I was in, it was a transformational coaching program. So obviously the people who were in that wanted to change their life. They were doing things, they were believing things differently, they were changing their habits. And a lot of times their partner did not like that. And so there was a huge amount of people in that group who went through divorces, as an example, or lost a long-term partner. And I think, that in and of itself has all the time and money and everything else, things that go along with it too, is that I think a lot of people stay exactly where they are because of the relationships that they're in, and they don't want to give them up.
Well, and if we dig further than that, because it's not so much the relationship, it's the fear, right? It's the fear that they're going to leave. It's the fear that they're going to not love me as much. Because if your existence is every Friday and Saturday night at the bar with the guys, getting shit-faced and picking up women, and you suddenly decide to go to AA, Do you
You're
think
gonna
your friends
lose.
are going to be really supportive of that? Depending on the friends. Some might be like, hey, Bob, good for you. But for the most part, that's a lifestyle and a pattern habit that your people, the people around you, aren't really going to appreciate because you're going to not be drinking anymore. Or they're going to relish in the fact they have an automatic designated driver, which I've had a couple of friend groups, do. Like, oh, great, Jim can drive now. Um, then you get to the deeper problem with this, what you just explained, the relationship thing is, then you get in this sort of narcissistic controlling relationship. And this typically is the husband is keeping the wife stuck. He wants to keep her heavy so that she's not attractive to other men. He wants to keep her friends at bay, the money at bay, the control issues, so that she doesn't get enough confidence to leave. And this becomes a deeper conversation of this whole narcissistic abuse, passive aggressive, gaslighting bullshit, which we're seeing so much of in today's society. I think it always existed, but man, I mean, like every time I turn on my computer, there's 5 articles about how to identify a narcissist, and these are the clues to gaslighting, and how to speak to a narcissist, and are you a narcissist, and what if you're a narcissist, and it's everywhere right now. I think because we have a couple famous people in government who are narcissists.
Well, and it's and it goes, from the other side too. It also is the flip side too, right? The woman wanting to keep the man, because I've experienced
Absolutely.
that myself, and I've seen that from other people too, where
Sure.
it's, they feel like it's kind of a gravy train. I've got a good thing because this man is providing everything for me, so I can sit on the couch and just watch Netflix all day. And so if he wants to change, right, or then something else might be going on. And I remember, again, this was in one of my relationships, long-term relationships that I had. I started losing weight because I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to feel healthier, right? And my partner at the time all of a sudden started like on me of almost not quite to the point of accusing, but thinking I was having an affair,
Right.
and that's why I was doing it. And it's like, I just want to be healthier. What the fuck are you talking about? Right. But again, it was because of that, of not wanting to risk. It's that fear of losing me as a provider if our relationship doesn't continue. And so,
Sure.
a lot of it's going back to that fear again too, right? I mean, there's the blanket time, money excuses, but I think when you dig deeper, most of the time it's a fear issue.
Sure.
And people are just making excuses to not address the deeper fear issue.
Absolutely. It's the fear. I think fear in the secondary gain, if you take the time and money and like drill down further than that. So when I did my Bufo ceremony, there were 4 of us there to take this medicine. And one of the women that was there, and I can't remember if I shared this when we talked about the ceremony. She was a train wreck. She sucked all the energy out of the room. She was very needy. She was very upset. She was very like expecting this medicine to solve all of her problems. And she got out of her ceremony and she literally walked out of the room like huffing and pouting. She was didn't do what I just thought it wouldn't. It wasn't as good as I thought it would. I should have asked for more. And she was so angry after her ceremony. And I'm sitting there like going, okay, I'm about to go in to accept this medicine. Like, this is not the energy that I want to be around. First of all, like, keep it to yourself, girl. Like, I don't need your shit storm flying all over the place. And the priestess, the ceremony leader, said, the medicine is only 30 to 50% of it. What happened in this journey today starts the process. You're going to have this unfolding for a month, so give it time. And you have to journal, meditate, have a self-care program. And this woman kind of flipped out a little bit. She's like, you don't understand. I have a newborn. I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time to journal. And she didn't want to, my perception of this and the word she was saying, she didn't want to take any steps herself. She wanted the medicine to magically change her. And I've had people call me for hypnosis sessions. I had one guy call and say, can you make me a better husband? And I said, sir, if I could do that, I would have every woman in the city lined up outside my door, dragging a man behind them. I can't snap my fingers and make you a better husband. That's not how hypnosis works. Let's get into a coaching relationship and see what you even mean by that. So I see a lot of people who it's maybe not the fear, it's maybe not the secondary gain, it's almost sort of laziness. They don't want to do the work. They expect some outside thing to make these changes for them. And maybe the time and money thing's an excuse, but just downright, if we really look at it honestly, they're just lazy or they don't want to do the work. I see a lot of that too.
Well, and because I think sometimes it's we feel a pressure to do what's kind of expected of us, right? I'll give you kind of it's going to seem maybe like an off the wall example, but
We never do that.
I've never do that. So I was giving a speech a few weeks ago, and in part of it I have the glass half full, glass half empty, right? Because most people again believe, hey, it's either I've got it's either half full or it's half empty. That's what we're told. And my whole point in there was to say, no, the glass is always full. And people are like, what? Yeah, it's just the ratio of air to water, but a glass is always full. There is something that fills that space, right? To be able to get people to think differently.
Yep.
Okay. And to start questioning some of their belief structures and realize that, everything that they think is true may not actually be true.
Right.
And so, as part of that, I had them, as I was going into it, I said, all right, everybody, who thinks the glass is half full? Raise your hand. Right. And a bunch of hands went up. And then I said, okay, who thinks the glass is half empty? One person out of 100 put up their hand. Okay. Now, this was a bunch of auditors. So I know that a lot of people in the room are skeptical, cynical. They've been taught to be that way. They believe the glass is half empty, but they didn't want to say that in front of everybody else because they thought the right answer was glass half full. Okay. And so how much of the time too do we do or say we want to improve our life in certain ways because that's what we think everybody expects us to do? That's what I'm supposed to do, right?
I see what you did there.
I see what I did there. And so even if we go back to, that woman that you were talking about just wanting to sit on the couch all day and watch Netflix. Well, again, we've even probably been a little judgy, like, oh no, you can't just sit on the couch and watch Netflix all day. But what if somebody does want to just sit on the couch and watch Netflix all day? Fine, if that's how you want to spend your life. But, they probably don't want to admit that to themselves because it's like, look, everybody else is going to think I'm lazy.
Sure.
I'm a leech, by doing that. And so I think too, sometimes there's that difference of alignment where we say we want to do something, but we really don't want to because we're not aligned with it. And we're just saying we want to do it because we think it's the right thing.
Right. Sure. And, that's such an interesting point. And, clients come to me for coaching and they'll set that goal, right? That's one of the first things I ask in my intake is, what can I help you achieve? What do you want to do? And we write down goals and there's the life pie chart where it charts, how
percentage of time,
not as a percent. I don't do that one, but it's like, of like, how happy are you with this? How happy are you with your job? How happy are you with your relationship? It's one of those kind of pie chart things. You fill it colored in. And then, someone tells me they want to write a book. And so we start working on that. And then 6 months in, they haven't put pen to paper yet. I go, okay, do you actually want to do this? Or do your parents think you should do this? Or did your boss tell you should do this? Or, so often we do set a goal. We think we want it because maybe we wanted it 10 years ago. But after a certain amount of time, it's like, I'll call you out on that. I'll call the bullshit meter and go, do you really want this? And often they kind of sit with that and they go, no, I guess maybe I don't. Or maybe you want it later. Maybe now's not the time. My memory popped up on Facebook for me yesterday. It said, book 9 underway. It was 2 years ago. I haven't finished it.
Yeah, you only have 8 books, I think, right?
I only have 8. It's only 8.
Only 8.
Such a loser. But it's like I started to write it and then I realized this isn't the time. I don't want to write this right now. So I changed my mind. And do I look stupid because I put up a thing on Facebook that says I'm going to write it and then I didn't? Are people sitting at home going, oh, I wonder if Kathy wrote that book? Probably not. And one of the reasons I put stuff like that on Facebook is so I will be inspired to do that. You get people behind you, you make that commitment. But I looked into it and I investigated it and I kind of laid it out and went, now's not the right time for me. It's okay to change your mind. We all have the ability to do that. And, if people are judging you, they're probably not, honestly. I can't, if I text my friends and said, "Are you disappointed I didn't write my 9th book?" They'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
I don't remember even seeing that post, right? So
Right. Yeah. So, so we've got, time, which might truly be, but there's always ways to work around that. The kids thing, there's ways to work around that. Relationships and that fear of losing something. Maybe not really wanting to change. We've got secondary gain. Yeah, see, it's always a rich conversation.
well, and I think too, what, like we said, what other people think too, because it reminds me of a somebody that I know, and so when he was 17, 18 years old, decided he wanted to be a paramedic, right? And lofty goal,
Yeah.
great thing to be, right? Paramedic, save lives, literally. And a firefighter, right? Firefighter, paramedic. Hey, noble, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
what little boy doesn't want to grow up and be a firefighter, right? And so for about 10 years of his life, he was doing everything, being an EMT, going to paramedic school, all this stuff, very, very kind of dedicated and consistent in what he was doing to make that goal happen. And it took him about 10 years. He got hired by a fire department, went through the fire academy, worked for about a week, and then quit.
Wow.
And everybody that knew him was like, except me, was like, what the fuck? You spent all this time, it's a
And
great
money.
paying, and money, it's a great paying job, you finally got your dream job, why did you quit a weekend, right? Because again, why did you quit a weekend, right? So everybody's kind of labeling him as a quitter. And in talking with him, it's like, the culture and everything, it just wasn't me. And it's like, how much of the time too, because it kind of goes the other way of, we get to a point and then we feel like we're stuck because we don't want to disappoint everybody else. We don't to give up our dream and move on, which is, I mean, he took a significant pay cut to go back and do something else, but he wouldn't have been happy.
Right.
And he would have been miserable hanging out with these people. And literally, as a firefighter, you live with these people.
Right. Yeah.
For days at a time. And so if they're talking about or their interests or these other things, politically, if they're completely opposite of where you are, imagine how that could be. And so I think too, part of it, and it gets down to the deeper thing, probably of fear, but of what other people might think. If we change or if we don't change.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. I so admire him. That is so brave. I mean, I have to say, after my first marriage, about 2 weeks in, I found out some things about him that I would have left. But I was in my early 20s. I didn't know any better. I couldn't disappoint. How do you go to your parents who just gave you your dream wedding and say, oh, whoopsie, and I ended up staying in this relationship for 3 years longer because I didn't know how to go.
Yeah.
Well, I just got married. What are people going to think? The people who was like, are you sure you want to do that? I'm like, no, it's perfect. We love each other so much. How could I now, especially at that age, go back and have the balls to go, oh, whoops, I made a mistake. Tell everyone now we're leaving each other after 2 weeks after a wedding. I didn't have the tools to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't have the tools to do that. So yeah, fascinating. Okay. So don't make excuses. Look at what you really want, and if there's a way that you want to improve your life, find a way to do that and incorporate help. Ask a friend, turn to a book or a mentor or a religious figure in your community or whatever you do to get support and make those changes that you want to make, because you can do it. The excuses are just covering up typically fear, as we just figured out. So
yeah. Well, and I'll tell you too, I mean, just for me, for those of you that are wanting to make the change and you're fearful, whatever you're afraid of is nothing compared to the good things that are going to come on the other side of it.
100%.
I mean, Kathy and I have lived long enough. We've been through relationships and other changes in our life that we can attest to this and testify to you that this is the fact that, when you have the courage to stop making the excuses and make the changes in your life that you want to, things are way, way better than they were before.
And easier.
And way easier too.
There's a flow that just happens when you step into that truth that it just, false evidence appearing real, fear.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. I am Kathy Groover. I can be reached at kathygroover.com.
And I'm Jason Mefford. I can be reached at jasonmefford.com. So go out, have a great week, and we'll see you on the next Fire and Earth podcast. See ya.
See ya.